Okay, well we're getting ready to start tiling in this back bathroom here, but I needed to address this toilet flange. These are really supposed to sit on top of the tile, and this has already had a repair kit installed at one point in time. So I was able to actually take the tap cons out and get this out of the way, and now I'm left with the old broken up flange here. So what I'm going to do to take this off is use my multi-tool, and I'm going to cut this outer ring off, and then I'll get down in there with a chisel and clean this pipe off. Then I'll set the tile and I'll install the flange after the fact, and then secure it down with some more tap cons or some type of a fastener. Okay, well that took me about 5 minutes, got it out of there. This is what I was explaining with the multi-tool. I came down right underneath this lip and cut it all the way around to take this flange piece off. And then I was left with the pipe right there. So I was able to get my multi-tool in right here, and I cut a slit in this pipe right here. Then I came in with a flat blade screwdriver and got right at the seam line and started carefully tapping down, and was able to break it off like that in multiple pieces. So now this is ready for tile, and then I'll set a new flange after the tile work's finished. Okay guys, well I'm beginning to work on the layout in this master bathroom here simply by laying tiles out on the floor and dry fitting everything. I'm going to try to get everything laid out pre-cut so I can just come in and install them. Now I'm attacking this one differently than the tub surrounds. My objective here is to start with a full tile up against this carpet and as much full tile as I can get over here, because that really is the focal point. There are going to be some narrow pieces along this wall, but they're going to be buried behind the toilet, behind the door, and you'll see maybe one and a partial over there. This is not one where I can get them side to side because of what I've just said. If I did that, I would end up with small pieces on both sides, and it just really wouldn't look right in my opinion. Now the front of this tub is also bowed, just like the back of it was. So I started here with a full tile, worked my way back to that row just to see where it was going to fall, and I shoved that tile up against the tub, and I'll scribe that to the tub and cut it off. So after I got it up there, I centered all these back up to right here. Now this is pretty centered in the doorway from side to side. It's a little bit off, but visually it will look nice. So once I get it all double checked and figured out, then I'm going to go ahead and just scribe a couple tiles back there, and then I'll scribe this most important one, and I'm just going to simply connect the lines. Now this wall here is way out of square from that one. That wall seems to be pretty square to the tub, as well as right here in the doorway. So this is the way I'm laying it out. And in a small room like this, rather than snapping a bunch of lines all over the place and doing a bunch of measuring, this just seems to be a lot quicker. I can visually look at it and say, yes, that looks good. Okay, well I pretty much have everything cut and laid out here. I left these pieces a little long. I've not scribed anything yet. I wanted to wait until I started setting these courses down, just in case things shifted a little bit on me. I could make the correction at that time. These pieces right here, I went ahead and notched them out where they're going to be slid under this door jamb that I need to undercut. I've done that on both sides. I really don't know what my finished floor height's going to be yet, so after I get some of the tile set, I'll take that measurement and then I'll undercut the jamb so I can slide them under once I get this far. I do have to pierce the hole for the closet flange and that tile right there. I purchased a diamond blade to cut that out with to put on my angle grinder, but my angle grinder won't accept it, so I've got to make a custom flange for it. Very strange. Alright guys, well I'd mentioned I purchased one of these diamond wheels to do some tile work with, and it would not fit on my grinder. This is an old Craftsman angle grinder my dad purchased years ago and smoked the brushes on it with all the use. So he tossed it to me and bought a new one. I put some motor brushes in it and repacked the head, and it's been working great ever since. I thought maybe I didn't have everything that actually came with it originally, so I dug up the manual And I did. All it came with was this cup washer here, a wrench, and of course the nut. Well, the problem being, this starts out with a bushing in here with a 1/2 inch hole, which is the size for this, but there was no way to back it. The shaft down here didn't have a flange, and this happens to be the same diameter as this, where it falls right over it. So it was not going to work. Not to mention it wouldn't go on there anyway and still be able to use the guard. So this is what I had to do. I broke out some steel last night and machined a custom flange for it. The black you see is a gun bluing product. It kind of helps give a little bit of corrosion resistance and makes them look nice. So now I've got this flange that sits on here and it holds the wheel up proud like it should. I've knocked out the bushing because this application does not require it. And then the centering part of this is actually the bottom hub on this nut. So now I'm back in action. I can use it with the guard. Shouldn't have to do something like that, but I didn't want to buy a tool, so I made my own. Alright, well this is the plug that I took out for the closet flange, and I just want to describe how I cut this out with this angle grinder. I actually saw a video on YouTube and it really did work great for a process. So just to describe it after the fact, after I scribed my hole, I came in with the angle grinder at a pretty steep angle, and I traced around, cutting just a little bit down into the stone, and then each time I went around I lowered the angle of the angle grinder, and I came in at a sharper angle and just worked it down, and this is now a tapered edge here, and then eventually it fell right out. Then if you want to, you can go in there and kind of clean up the hole. But it really was a good idea and a fairly quick process to do. Alright guys, well we got the tile set in this bathroom back here. All in all, it looks pretty good. Once I got down in this arena, I undercut the door jamb. I put that tile in, slid this one in, slid this one in, and set this tile last, and then I adjusted everything out and spaced it. We ended up with a nice transition here from the carpet into the room. Looks really good. I am going to change my game plan here just a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and grout this floor, seal it in, and be done with that in terms of tile. I'm going to install the baseboard, caulk it in, fill any nail holes, probably do the paint touch up after the fact, but I need to go ahead and set a toilet here. We've got one in the other bathroom, but I need to pull it so I can do the floor. So to keep a working toilet, I'm going to do things in an order like that, and then I'll come back in later and do these tub surrounds at the same time. Alright guys, well I have the floor now with the grout installed. Very easy to do, I'll describe that. Since I used a 3/16 inch spacing, I needed to use a sanded grout. Pretty much anything above an 1/8 inch you use sanded, anything below an 1/8 inch unsanded. I'm just wrapping it up now. It's going to lighten up a little, it's still wet. And after about 2 or 3 days, then I can seal it and it'll be finished. Applying the grout is rather simple. I'll go ahead and go over the procedure I used just for reference. Of course, once you get it mixed up, scoop some up on your float, put it down on the floor. Hold your grout float at about a 45-degree angle and you can start working it into these joints. Maybe use the front edge, pack it in real nice, get too much in there, and then hold the float at a very steep angle and squeegee it off to the next area, and you'll have less cleanup to do that way. Now on my final sweep, I'm coming across diagonally across these grout joints so I don't dig it out. If you come down this way, you might notch off into this and mess it up, so always come across at a diagonal angle. Okay, well I actually was cleaning the tile as I was moving my way out the door. I got a fair section grouted in, and then I came back to clean up the mess. I have 2 buckets here. This ends up being a dirty bucket and this is a clean bucket, and I have a sponge for each. So once I got some of it installed, then I came back with a damp sponge, fully wrung out. And the way I removed the residuals off there was one edge. I have 8 edges here, 1 swipe per edge, and then it would get cleaned. Then I would move to the clean bucket and do that procedure again. So I just worked my way out the door doing that very thing, and that'll help minimize the hazing that needs to be buffed off later. Now I have a little bit there, so I'm going to go in one more time with a fresh clean bucket, and then tomorrow I'll come back in with a rag if there's anything still left on the floor. Now, one thing about grouting that I had learned is if you're using a natural stone product, you want to seal the stone before you install the grout. If not, all this residual is going to get down in that stone, and I think the only way you can get it out is use some kind of an acid treatment or something along those lines. So that's just a word of warning for folks using natural stones. Make sure you seal them before you install the grout.